Hi. Oh, hey. Hi. That one's a keeper. Welcome to eukaryotic cell structure. We're going to go through our intro to cell structure and function question guide. We got 10 questions to get through, so yep. Okay, so number one, what are organelles? Well, they're the little boys inside a cell that do things, right? Organelle means literally small organ. And organs inside your body, they perform specific specialized functions. Like your heart does something different than your lungs, does something different than your skin and your muscles and your pancreas. Okay? They all perform different specific functions and they all come together as the whole organism. So it's like that. In a cell, they have special little parts. We call those boys organelles. So we're going to talk about the different kinds of organelles. You've probably been exposed to them somewhere in middle school times. I know my daughter just did stuff in 6th grade. So probably you did that too. So maybe intermediate school for you. So number 2 says eukaryotic cells are divided into 2 parts. So we've got the nucleus. More on that in a second. See number 3 in your notes. All right, so we'll get there. We also have what is the rest of the cell, which we call the cytoplasm. So anything outside of the nucleus falls in something called the cytoplasm. That's where all our other organelles are going to be. So cytoplasm, since you'll be asked to figure this out later, literally means cell fluid. So if like you have a water balloon, right? So the cell membrane, the outside of the cell would be like the rubber that is the balloon, and then the water on the inside would be like the cytoplasm, cell fluid. What's that nucleus do? Well, first of all, it doesn't pronounce its name nucleus. That's wrong. Nucleus. Remember the nacho? And underneath the man, you find the nucleus. What's the nucleus do? Controls everything in the cell. What's in the nucleus? DNA. So DNA, we know, we've explored this a lot. It is the molecule that determines everything about you and about every organism. The nucleus contains that, so therefore is the control center. Right? When we're done with this, I'll explore some analogies to help make sense of this. All right, so we'll get to that. There you go, nucleus. Okay, so what are ribosomes? Well, we've talked about them before and their role in protein synthesis, right? Okay, maybe. Anyways, their job is pretty simple. They crank out proteins all day. That's their single job. So we'll look at this a little bit later again, but they're made of bits of RNA and bits of protein, and their job is solely to make proteins. So we find ribosomes in a couple places in the cell. Some of them are free floating, and some of them are embedded into the membrane structure I'm going to talk to you about next. All right, so on number 4, this is where we are about to hit, and do number 5. Okay, so we got number 5, the endoplasmic reticulum. So we have a couple different flavors of ER, right? So we can just call it the ER, that's fine. We've got the smooth ER and the rough ER. So the rough is called rough because it's bumpy, because you can see in the illustration there, it's got ribosomes bouncing all over it. So they're actually embedded in the membrane, so it makes it bumpy. So we call that the rough ER, but we also have the smooth ER, okay, which doesn't have ribosomes embedded in it. So what do they do? Well, let's just talk about the ER as a whole entity. We don't really need to distinguish between smooth and rough ER. So I'm gonna. So what's it do? It makes some stuff. we'll worry about less about that than the second function, which says proteins and other materials are exported from the cell. So the essential role, the most important thing that the ER does, is it takes the proteins that the ribosome makes and it ships them around. You can see, working our way from the nucleus outwards, proteins are made and then they're shipped through this membrane system, the ER, right? So it's transporting proteins. That's the essential function of the ER, which, by the way, is endoplasmic reticulum. The first year I was teaching, I had it on a quiz, and I said, what's the organelle that transports proteins? And someone wrote the endothermic republican, which is not accurate. Wait, what's the Golgi and what's he do? This is number 6. So what's the Golgi? What's he do? Pretty simple. So our proteins are made already, right? Our ER made the proteins. Well, now they just go over to the Golgi apparatus, or Golgi body, sometimes it's called. All right, so here's where they're like done their final modifications, final packaging, so that they can finally be sent out of the cell. So this is like a last stop in their protein synthesis chain. It starts with the information for proteins is found in the nucleus, right? The information comes out of the nucleus in the form of RNA, where the ribosomes make the protein, and then the protein is shipped through the ER, and then it's shipped over to the Golgi, and then it's finally shipped out of the cell. So that's kind of like our process of the protein pathway. So number 6, Golgi apparatus is this membrane system, right? And is the final location for final packaging of our proteins. What am lysosome? Well, you see some words in this diagram. It says digestion. Well, it's not like eating food, not exactly. But these little guys are chock full of enzymes, which we already know catalyze chemical reactions. So these things and their enzymes break down stuff in a cell. All right, so they break down lipids, carbohydrates, proteins. They're basically breaking down and recycling broken parts of the cell. So lysosomes, they're the cleanup crew, man. They're fixing all the messes that are inside a cell. So thank you for lysosomes for keeping my cells clean. All right, we're up to number 8, mitochondria. Where are they? What do they do? So all eukaryotes have mitochondria. Why do prokaryotes not have mitochondria? Answer that question in 3, 2, 1, answer. Yep, because prokaryotes don't have membrane-bound organelles. Correct. So mitochondria, they're found in all eukaryotes. What do? Well, they do this process that we're going to call later, we'll look at in some detail. It's called cellular respiration. It is to make this chemical in our cells called ATP. So next week we'll look at ATP, why it's important. We'll look specifically at what mitochondria do, why that's important. Essentially, it converts the food that we eat into the kind of energy molecule that we can use to, like, talk and think, and breathe and move, birdwatch. So we always call this the powerhouse of the cell, right? That's mitochondria's fun little nickname. Everyone always remembers that. All right, number 9, chloroplasts. Where are these boys? Are they in animals? No, just plants. Well, some other things that do photosynthesis, but only organisms that do photosynthesis. You do not do photosynthesis. You are strictly a heterotroph. You can't go stand out under the sun with your arms wide open and photosynthesize, despite how green I am today and festive. Okay. So, chloroplast. Only in photosynthesizers. Let's abbreviate things for now and say plants. You can at least say definitely not animals. So what does it do? Photosynthesis. All right, we'll look at this in detail soon too. All right, so it takes the energy from sunlight and helps combine a bunch of molecules together to make sugar. Okay, so it does photosynthesis to make sugar. All right, cytoskeleton. So number 10, last question of our notes here. So cyto means cell. Skeleton, of course, is about structure. So this is one of those things that provides some structure inside a cell, helps keep it shape, helps allow for movement within the cell by keeping it shaped. So okay. Pretty simple, straightforward. You can see by the diagram here, it's made up of a bunch of kind of like little structures like scaffolding. Okay. So it's made up of some different small parts. You don't need to know that necessarily. But that's the cytoskeleton. That's his job. Okay. Okay, thank you for joining me today on our journey, learning about some simple organelles. Please remember to like and subscribe for all my sponsors.